Hello gamers, is Ezra here and welcome back to Ezra Review. And on today's review, I want to talk about the Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, specifically about the first soldier and about Sephiroth story. Because the unexpected happened like several weeks ago, which is like, I know I'm late to this, but I was actually debating whether I should make this video or not, but I couldn't have to. I don't know, man. I keep thinking about this Ever Crisis storyline and how it could affect Final Fantasy Remake Part 3, So I thought that, well, I might as well make it a video right now, because, I think I love Sephiroth and I absolutely love what they were doing with Sephiroth's story and Ever Crisis, because here's the thing. Ever Crisis are obviously a mobile game, and there is this one storyline or one campaign named The First Soldier, and honestly, when it was first started, it was actually focusing on these three characters, I think, like Matt, Lucia, and Glenn, right? And we see Glenn in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Matt and Lucia got name drop, I think, in a side quest that reveal what happens to Wedge in Cosmo Canyon, I think the side quest was, which is interesting, and honestly, yeah, that's not until like the end of the first chapter where young Sephiroth swoop in and just burn every single Redoran, I think that's how I pronounce it, Redoran soldiers, and that's pretty much the young Sephiroth storyline, where we see that he's actually like he's actually making friends with Glenn, Matt, and Lucia, and it was revealed that Sephiroth actually wants to have friend, and I think the main message on the story is actually if Sephiroth can feel a little bit of compassion, his life will be different, because it seems like now he's a cold killing soldier in a way, but no, he actually want to feel compassion, and then he actually care about Glenn, Matt, and Lucia, like they are actually his real friends, because Sephiroth never had real friends before. And I think that's an interesting origin for Sephiroth, because they are humanizing Sephiroth, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to completely ruin Sephiroth's character, Even in fact, I was in love with how they were handling this story so far, but we're gonna talk about like the big, the big mystery or like the big plot in this first soldier, because like I said before, he's this basically this whole campaign is focusing more on young Sephiroth and Glenn, Matt, and Lucia as they're trying to basically survey this island, that belongs to a Rodoran, sorry, a Rodoran. Um, and yeah, we actually see some big plot points here because the Rodoran is actually trying to basically protect the planet in a way, because it like the storyline for this Rodoran is actually kind of similar to the Cetra in a way, and because their island was surrounded by the live streams, and obviously Shinra are trying to use that Mako energy to produce like electricity and stuff like that, because that's their company. And that's what Sephiroth are tasked for, to basically get rid of the Rodoran. And then on one day, they met this one Rodoran named Rosen, right, or Rosan, I think. And he is a pretty big deal, because in the story itself, we see that Sephiroth wasn't Sephiroth. Sorry, Glenn actually saw Sephiroth killing Rosen, and from his perspective, it seems like Sephiroth are killing Rosen in a cold-blooded way, and obviously Glenn was so mad at Sephiroth, like, why would you do this, man? Like, Rosen was our friend, he might be a Rodoran, but he is our friend, they don't want him to die, because Shinra has been killing every single Rodoran in the island, and then the sad thing, it wasn't a sad thing, but the irony is that they can't even use the island to build the reactor, so they just kill a bunch of people for nothing, which is like, damn, dude, but yeah, this after we see Glenn's perspective, we get to see Sephiroth perspective, in this glorious 3D cutscenes, which is amazing to see that, And we actually saw that from Sephiroth's perspective, he was actually confronted with a choice where like he either kills Rosen and complete his mission and save his friends, Glenn, Matt, and Lucia, or they like Sephiroth keep Rosen alive and potentially could endanger it potentially put dangers on Glenn, Matt, and Lucia's life, and then Sephiroth, because he cares for Glenn, Matt, and Lucia because they are his friends, right? His first friend, you could say that. Sephiroth decided to make this choice to kill Rosen, and then when he kills Rosen, he's not exactly killing him in a cold-blooded way, but because he was confronted with a choice. And this is interesting to me because like after this scene, we get to see like the adult Sephiroth, we get to see like the remix of One Wing Angel where Sephiroth became a hero, and that is such an amazing thing to see. And then the most surprising thing happened is that we actually get to see Sephiroth in the Edge of Creation, which is the scene from Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is completely absent in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is insane to me. And yeah, that part was interesting, and I feel like this story should be in part two, but I'm gonna talk about that way later in the videos. But for now on, for the cutscene itself, for how Ever Crisis Season 1 end with the first soldier, that was an amazing end, man, to the point that I did not see that coming. Like, holy shit, dude, Like, Sephiroth is actually, like, reminiscing his past life, He's reminiscing about the fact that he has to make a choice to kill Rosen and save his friend, or actually let Rosen live, and then maybe put Glenn, Matt, and Lucia's life in danger, and he's actually memorizing that in the Age of Creation. And that is interesting to me because like the Sephiroth in the Age of Creation actually acted differently compared to this other Sephiroth that we see throughout Remake and Rebirth. Because if you guys remember in the last chapter of Remake, we get to see Sephiroth actually not trying to kill Cloud, but actually offering Cloud that, let us defy destiny together. Like, come on, Cloud, let's do this together. It seems like he has a goal which we don't know what the goal is, but that is interesting to me, because it seems like Sephiroth in the Edge of Creation is not exactly the pure evil Sephiroth that we know and love, but it actually has its own reason why he's trying to do this, why he's trying to potentially split the world or like reuniting the world, like what is his actual purpose? We have no idea, and that is such an interesting plot point, man. I really cannot wait to see what they're going to do with this Sephiroth storyline. And in fact, that since we're talking about how this scene should be in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which yeah, I think it should be. However, they might save these scenes, these young Sephiroth scenes, for Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3. I don't know what they're gonna call Part 3, Return, Reunite, who knows. But I feel like Maximilian Dude, or specifically his chat, actually suggested that, oh, like maybe part 3 could open up with young Sephiroth's storyline, which is what we see in Ever Crisis. And that is an interesting way to open part 3, and I really hope they do that because we have no idea how they're going to open part 3. Part 1, obviously, it's going how it's going to open, because like it's the beginning of the game, right? Obviously. And obviously, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, we get to see the flashback with Nibelheim. So I think the choice was obvious, But part 3, we have no idea, I guess we could start immediately with the party in the Tiny Bronco heading to Rocket Town, because there is a war going on, and then maybe Sid decide to fix his Tiny Bronco again, and that's why they decide to go to Rocket Town. I still think Rocket Town is gonna be the first town we see in part 3, sure. However, I think it's not gonna be an interesting opening if you just like immediately go to the Tiny Bronco scene and then you immediately go to Rocket Town, So I think that's not exactly an interesting opening, and they could still very well do that. However, if they decide to open part 3 with the young Sephiroth, I think that would be perfect, because so far the developers has been stating that this is not just like the Clouds and everybody's other journey in the story itself, however, it's also the villain's journey, it's also Sephiroth's journey, and so far we didn't really get to see that in Remake and Rebirth, just like a tiny bit of breadcrumbs here and there, and it doesn't exactly we know what Sephiroth has been planning. So I think if you open the game with if you open part 3 with the young Sephiroth backstory, that would be the most perfect thing to do, because like you are humanizing Sephiroth, and it gives the player a lot more perspective about Sephiroth. Hell, they could add a new scenes, in part 3. That would be amazing. And of course, not everybody play Ever Crisis. It's a mobile game, and essentially you have to grind everything to get to a certain part of the story, and not everyone is going to do that. So I think it's the best if they decide to open part 3 with the young Sephiroth storyline, I think you get to know him way more than before, and then it's gonna be way interesting to see how they're going to solve Sephiroth backstory in part 3, So that's a really perfect way to open the game, in my opinions, And there is 2 other things that I want to discuss, and not just like the big scenes, but I want to talk about how they handle the young Sephiroth's mother in this one, because spoilers if you guys don't know, Sephiroth Mothers is actually Lucretia, which is Vincent Valentine love interest, right? We get to see like a teasers here and there in Rebirth, when Vincent is talking about Lucretia in a way, how he's still defending Lucretia, even though she made a huge mistake, according to, well, Dearth of Cerberus, which is the worst Final Fantasy 7 game in my opinions, but still, that's besides the point. I think it's interesting to see how young Sephiroth are discovering his information about her mother, because her mother, even though her name was Lucretia, we all know that he actually said that, oh, this is my mother, her name was Genova. And it was like, oh damn, so, and then he said that, oh, Professor Hojo gave me this picture, but he doesn't necessarily tell me about her. He doesn't he doesn't give any information about my mother. And that is so messed up, man, because like it really set up why Sephiroth immediately have this breakdown in Nibelheim, because I think the way he has a breakdown in Nibelheim, it makes sense. But I feel like now with Ever Crisis, where you see Hojo just basically gaslighting Sephiroth that, hey, this is Genova, but no, it's actually Lucretia, and then he never know that, until like maybe way later in part 3, It's like, yeah, that's interesting, and that's also really messed up, because Sephiroth is also the victim in this situation, and that is insane to say, because Sephiroth is like the big bad villain in Final Fantasy 7. But I would argue that Professor Hojo and Genova are the two biggest threat in Final Fantasy 7, and yes, you could include Sephiroth there, but Sephiroth, again, he's just a victim, If there is a person that actually caring for Sephiroth, if Sephiroth has a good mother, a good loving and mother and father, then yeah, Sephiroth is not gonna grow as a villain. But the fact that he was only used as a weapon by Shinra and by Professor Hojo to further his research, even though, and of course, completely impregnate Lucretia with Sephiroth, it's like, damn, dude, like that is so messed up. And I cannot wait to see how this plot is going to be revealed in part 3. I hope this is just like not exclusive in the Ever Crisis storyline, and they never mention that again. I hope that this information about how Hojo is gaslighting Sephiroth about Genova, lying about Genova, the true Genova, right? I hope they explore that in part 3, and I'm really hoping that they give Professor Hojo a slowing and painful death. I know that sounds psychopathic for me to say, but like Hojo is an asshole throughout this entire game in the original Final Fantasy 7 and then in the remake trilogy. He's a super big asshole, man, next to Genova. I would even argue that Hojo was the biggest asshole in Final Fantasy 7 universe, next to Genova, obviously, because Genova is just there to basically fool everybody around her, giving her more character in a way. But yeah, hopefully that they didn't just like kill Hojo and then that's it. I hope that the death is gonna be slow and painful. That's probably just me though. Either way, that's interesting information. But the next one I want to talk about the season 2 trailer for Ever Crisis, because they do reveal the trailer for that again weeks ago, and we see young Angel in the trailer. And that is so interesting to me because like for the season 2 of First Soldier, it was revealed that it's gonna be the story for young Sephiroth and young Angel, and it's gonna be about their friendship. And we get to see this one cameraman, which I believe is the same cameraman that appeared in Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, where this cameraman was actually recording the event of Sephiroth and Angel. And I'm highly convinced that the cameraman is gonna come back in part 3, because he was in Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, and we don't get to see his like it seems like he's just there to like, hey Cloud, like take a picture, to this beautiful view in a mountain, and then that's it, but I feel like in part 3 he's gonna come back and he's gonna be a big plot point in part 3, because I think the Ever Crisis storyline was pretty obvious that he's like recording this event, so it actually has like an archival history for Sephiroth and Angel, and potentially for Shinra and Genova itself, and presumably maybe Professor Hojo in a way. And I think that's gonna be the big backstory for the cameraman and why he quits working for Shinra, and then maybe now it's like, I'm gonna take a picture for like a beautiful view in Costa del Sol or all in Calm, So it's like maybe that's the reason why he decided to switch. Well, not necessarily switching jobs, but I guess switching interests. It's not necessarily working for Shinra again. At least I assume he's working for Shinra, right? Otherwise, why would he just be recording Sephiroth and Angel walking to a wasteland or something, right? That doesn't make any sense to me if he doesn't work for Shinra. And I believe in part 3, we're gonna see this archival recording for Sephiroth and Angel, and Zack could be there with Cloud watching this footage right here, right? And then it's gonna be an interesting event, because Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 is gonna be 3 years away. So I think Season 2 is gonna be released maybe next year. So we all obviously we're gonna see information about the storyline soon enough, which I cannot wait to see how what they're going to do with Sephiroth and young Angel, because that is interesting. And it seems like Angel and Genesis, they might come back in part 3, because it seems like they are acknowledging all the Final Fantasy VII compilation, even Dirge of Cerberus, so who's to say they're not gonna come back, Angel and Genesis. So I think I think they will come back in part 3, but I think they're gonna be handled way different than the compilation does, which is like super cringy and super anime robot dialogue, and it's just like, God, shut up, but yeah, that is interesting, I cannot wait to see what they're going to do with this season 2, and I think it's also interesting that we see Sephiroth encountering Professor Hojo in like a purple portal in a way, and I feel like Sephiroth is going to have like the Genova vision. And I forgot to mention this, when we see a cutscene where Sephiroth become a hero, there is like a Genova like headache that happens to Sephiroth, which we saw that a lot. We saw that happen a lot to Cloud, So now Sephiroth is experiencing it himself. So that is interesting to me, because like I feel like Sephiroths are going to the journey just like Cloud. However, Cloud has Tifa. Cloud has his friends, and that's why Cloud was able to accomplish his journey and doesn't necessarily go to the dark place. Like, don't get me wrong, part 3, like in part 3, Cloud will go to dark places. He's gonna be evil in a way, but he's gonna come back way better than before. All of that thanks to Tifa. So Cloud has Tifa, and that's why he is able to survive this like Genova headache, illusion in a way, and then he's able to keep it together himself, and he's able to overcome his fear and becomes a hero, like a true hero, because he has Tifa and then he has his friends. Sephiroth, on the other hand, never really had anybody in his entire life. Again, Sephiroth thinks that he might met friends with Matt, Lucia, and Glenn, but it seems like no, like Glenn, Matt, and Lucia, they completely went off the rails, because they don't like what they were doing with Shinra, and of course, like a lot of people are looking up to Sephiroth as a hero, but none of them are looking up to him as a true friend, and it feels like Angel could be the one that filled that gap, because like, it seems like Angel and Genesis is gonna be like Sephiroth friend in a way, but Angel and Genesis, they all mess up in a way. So it's like, it's not that like Sephiroth doesn't have a good friend that stays there and like keeping it together for him and always be there to help him go through his own mental problem, like he doesn't have anybody that does that. So that's why Sephiroth becomes evil later on, so I believe that's how they going to handle the storyline, and again, if you see the trailer, that there is even one scene where Sephiroth is like doing the Cloud Strife, pose in a way, and I'm just like, damn, dude, like it was so amazing, It makes me thinking about the George Lucas quote, like about Star Wars prequel, like it's like a poetry, it rhymes, it's like that's how it feels like with Sephiroth and Cloud storyline right now, like it's like a poetry, it rhymes. So that is interesting, and I guess we have to wait and see what's going to happen in season 2. I cannot wait for that, and hopefully they're gonna put the information in part 3. So like if you think about it, part 3 is gonna be, I think, story-wise, is gonna be way bigger than Rebirth and Remake, because there's all the big plot point finally happening, and I really cannot wait for that in 2027. Hopefully in 2027, and doesn't took like 2030 or something like that. No, I don't want I don't want to wait that long for part 3, because I was so hyped to see where this story is going to end, and to see the answer for all these mysteries, so I think that's gonna be really amazing. Also 2027, the 30th anniversary for Final Fantasy VII, that's a perfect way to release your game, man, because why not, right? So yeah, guys, that's pretty much the video for the Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis Sephiroth storyline. Again, everything is here is really interesting. I really cannot wait to see how it develop in the future. So let me know, guys, in the comment section below. What do you guys think about this idea of them trying to humanize Sephiroth? Are you guys against that, or are you guys okay with that? And how do you guys think about the similarity between Sephiroth and Cloud's storyline in the future? Like, how do you guys still feel about that? Are you guys excited, or do you guys think that Sephiroth shouldn't have an origin story, so let me know all that in the comment section below, guys. And if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure, guys, octo slash that subscribe and like button, guys. Share the videos, the usual stuff. Again, I really cannot wait for Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 3. I think it's gonna be amazing. And of course, the season 2 for Ever Crisis, so I think that's really amazing. Also, special thanks to Fast who actually been grinding and playing Final Fantasy 7 Ever Crisis, because all this footage here are actually from his channel. So make sure to subscribe to Fast, because these guys are grinding throughout the entire Final Fantasy 7 Ever Crisis, man. So yeah, subscribe to him, guys, and stay tuned for more videos in the future. And again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one then. Bye.